Welcome. Thank you for being here. This is my first Elsevier conference. Usually as a professor, I'm used to academic talks, and so this is the first, so I'll try to make this more interactive. I want to begin this afternoon not with technology, but with a person. So imagine a first-generation Francophone student living in Northern Ontario, Canada. Brilliant, ambitious, navigating university in a minority language context. They discover a national scholarship opportunity. They prepare their materials carefully, they gather their letters, they write their proposal, they submit, and then they disappear into a system. Not because they lack merit, but because they lack potential. Not because they lack potential, but because the system evaluating them may be inconsistent, evenly documented, informally structured, unintentionally biased, or simply overwhelmed. And so most scholarships and award systems were built on goodwill. But goodwill is not governance, and governance without structure cannot guarantee equity. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Many scholarship decisions that shape academic careers are made through processes that would never pass the level of scrutiny we apply to faculty hiring or tenure review. And yet those decisions determine who gains access to opportunity. When I stepped into leadership at the Baxter Alma Ricard Foundation, I realized something uncomfortable. We believed in excellence, we believed in fairness, we believed in access, but our processes were not designed to prove those beliefs. And today, belief is not enough. Transparency must be demonstrable, equity must be measurable, and excellence must be auditable. I've asked, this is my fourth year in this position, and I've asked most of my colleagues if they felt confident and comfortable that award or review processes would withstand a full audit, not just financially, but ethically. And the answer was, oh, maybe. And they're not alone. Most systems were never designed to answer that question. And that question changed everything for us. Before leading the Ricard Foundation, my work as an academic often focused on questions of access, representation, and structures that shape opportunity. And when I stepped into philanthropy, I began to see how deeply those structures influenced who advanced and who was left behind. But before we go further, let me situate the institution. So the Ricard Foundation is today the largest private foundation in Canada that is dedicated exclusively to supporting higher education for Francophones living in minority contexts, that is outside of Quebec. We've been in existence for almost 30 years now, and each year we receive applications from across the country, from Northern Ontario to Western Canada, from the Acadian communities in the Atlantic to emerging Francophone population in urban centers. And what we support is not only academic excellence, but the continuity and vitality of Francophone communities across Canada. But what makes our foundation unique is not only the scale of our scholarship, it's the ecosystems that we've built around them. Yes, we do offer some of the most significant scholarships in the country for Francophone students, investments that directly support academic success, research, and leadership. But beyond financial support, we also invest in high-impact research through endowed academic chairs, extending our mission into critical areas of knowledge and societal impact. For instance, we have a chair in inner city health at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto, which addresses some of the most pressing issues related to health, equity, access, and vulnerable urban populations. We also have a chair in cerebrovascular neurosurgery at the University of Toronto, advancing cutting-edge research and clinical innovation in one of the most complex and life-critical areas of medicine. And unlike our scholarships, which we administer directly, these chairs are managed by their host institutions. And so together, these chairs allow us to move from supporting students to shaping fields of knowledge, from enabling individual success to contributing to breakthroughs that impact society at large. In other words, we are not simply a scholarship provider, we are building a national platform for equity, excellence, and long-term impact. And it is precisely because of this scale and responsibility that we had to confront a difficult question. Are our internal systems strong enough to support the impact we claim to have? So in higher education, we have spent decades refining systems for faculty evaluation, tenure, promotion, and hiring. We scrutinize research impact, we document deliberation, we formalize criteria, we protect institutional memory. But when it comes to scholarships and philanthropic awards, we often revert to email threads, shared drives, spreadsheets, fragmented committee workflows, not because there's a lack of integrity, but because philanthropy has historically operated in relationship-based systems rather than infrastructures or infrastructure-driven systems. Yet scholarship decisions are high stakes. They shape academic trajectories, social mobility, cultural continuity, institutional pipelines, and even national research landscapes. And so at our foundation, we operate in Canada's Francophone minority context, where language is not simply communication. It is identity, it's history, and it's lived political reality. And excellence in minority context does not always look like excellence in dominant structures. In our evaluation tools, if our evaluation tools are built around dominant assumptions, we risk reproducing inequity while believing we are rewarding merit. And so that realization led us to a critical or to a radical question. What if we treated scholarship evaluation within the same structure, seriousness as faculty tenure? And what we discovered is that scholarship management is not an administrative process, it's an institutional infrastructure. So that question brought us to Interfolio, specifically faculty search and review, tenure, and promotion. And these systems were designed for universities. They were not designed for philanthropic foundations, but governance travels, or governance logic travels, and we began by rethinking faculty search. So instead of structuring faculty hiring competitions, we structured national scholarship competitions. Instead of onboarding professors, we onboarded applicants from remote Francophone communities, small institutions, and emerging research environments. But the most important decision we made was this. We did not digitize our process or our old process. We redesigned it. We rebuilt our rubrics from the ground up. We interrogated our definitions, and we asked difficult questions such as, what does leadership mean in a rural minority context? What does impact look like for a community-based researcher? Are we privileging polished institutional support letters over raw intellectual potential? And are we unintentionally rewarding access to institutional resources rather than individual merit? So technology here forced philosophical clarity, and that clarity was transformative. Faculty search allowed us to build staged review processes, blind preliminary rounds, automated eligibility screening, structured conflict of interest declarations, rubric-based scoring, anchored in defined competencies. And somewhere along the way, we realized something surprising. We weren't implementing software. We were actually redesigning governance. And Interfolio didn't simply digitize our processes. It actually forced us to clarify our values, to formalize our criteria, and to build structure capable of defending those decisions. And so for the first time, we could see patterns, not anecdotes, not impressions, but patterns. And these patterns are where equity either weakens or strengthens. And in our most recent competition cycle, we reviewed over 400 applications from across Canada's Francophone communities, making the need for transparent, structured evaluation not just desirable, but essential. And I have to say that this year we received 400 applications, but 1,100 applications were submitted, but they were never completed. And that's something that we're working on and that we're interested in learning why. And when I first started about 4 years ago, we had received 44 applications. So Interfolio really helped us to sort of, jump that number. And we could talk more about that later. But the deeper breakthrough came with RPT. So most people associate RPT with tenure dossiers. We saw something different. We saw something like a governance architecture. And traditionally, scholarship decisions are archived loosely, so PDF folders, email summaries, committee recollections, etc. But RPT here allowed us to institutionalize deliberation. Committee decisions became structured phases. Decision rationales were documented. Version histories were preserved, and multi-level approvals were traceable. What changed was not simply efficiency, it was accountability. Board members and members of the search committee no longer relied solely on narrative explanations. They could see how criteria were applied, how scores were involved, how conflicts were declared and managed, and how decision aligned with established rubrics. So here, institutional memory moved from individuals to system, and this is what mature governance looks like. And I also want to add here that within Canada and perhaps the US context, I'm not sure, but in Canada, the government structures who can give out donations, like private foundations, and there's a charitable status we have. And if we're not accountable to certain of these qualifications, we can lose that status. And so this is where RPT and became very important for us. So equity is one of the most frequently invoked words in our sector. But without data, equity remains aspirational. And once our workflows were structured, we began asking better questions. Are certain regions underrepresented at the semifinal stage? Do applicants from smaller institutions score differently in specific categories? Do bilingual submissions or the bilingual format influence evaluation outcomes? And where are applicants exiting the process and why? So we began to see patterns, geographic disparities, institutional clustering, subtle scoring variability, not because reviewers lacked integrity, but because even the most well-intentioned judgment is shaped by bias, context, and perspective. And systems either amplify variability or they regulate it. And Interfolio allowed us to regulate variability. And where variability is regulated, equity can finally find its space to operate. And when equity becomes measurable, it becomes improvable. And that begins to change the culture of decision-making. So what excites us the most about being here at the Elsevier conference is that we are no longer operating in silos. The academic enterprise, philanthropic institution, and research analytic communities are increasingly being interconnected. The same logic that strengthens tenure review can strengthen scholarship distribution. The same transparency that builds faculty trust can build applicant trust. The same structured data that informs research strategy can also inform philanthropic allocation. We often assume innovation flows with universities outwards, but our experience suggests it can also move laterally across sectors. So philanthropy can become a laboratory of governance, refinement, and academic tools can become engines for inclusive access. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. So I'm going very quickly in this presentation, but that's fine. We'll have more time to discuss. So I want to close with this. Scholarship change, they change lives. But the systems that award them determine whose lives change. And for a long time, many of these processes relied on goodwill, tradition, and informal practices. But good intentions are not good enough when decisions shape opportunity. And at the Ricard Foundation, we didn't simply adopt software. We built an architecture of opportunity, an architecture where governance supports equity, where technology strengthens trust, where merit can emerge from places, systems previously overlooked. Because when opportunity is governed, well, excellence has a chance to emerge from everywhere. And that is the architecture of opportunity we should all be building. Thank you so much.